I think 20 years is an admirable amount of time to spend with me. So today, January 8th, 2026, marks the 20-year anniversary of me and Kara being married. And I could not be more impressed at Kara's longevity and her patience, her strength of character. Because I don't know if it comes across in the videos that I do and the podcasts and the public speaking and the blog posts and the newsletters. I don't know if it comes through. I don't know if it reads just how much of a pain in the butt I am or can be. Now, Kara knows. So, I don't know. I wanted to talk a little bit about what 20 years of marriage has done for me and taught me. And it didn't make an official list or anything, so I'm not going to be reading like a list of bullet points. There won't be any fancy graphics appearing on the screen. I think in large part, what I've learned from being married in general is that even if you are a very independent individual person, being married, I guess this is common sense, but it necessitates compromise. Like you have no choice. If you want the marriage to continue, you have no choice but to sublimate some of what you want, some of the things that you would prefer, in the name of being unified with someone else. And I'm probably preaching to the choir to a lot of folks watching this and following along with me. Because I know a lot of you have been married for perhaps many more years than 20. Or maybe you've been married for 5 years, but you pick up on certain things right away. And the concept of compromise is definitely one of those. I was not that intelligent. I was not. It took me a very long time to come around to the idea that I had to give up on certain things that I preferred or wanted in the name of the relationship. And I apologize. I have allergies apparently, and my nose is itching. So I'm going to try not to look like a cocaine addict throughout the video. So that was one of the things that I had to come to, and it took a long time. I'd say the first 7 years of our marriage, I was not very good at that. And then the next several years of the marriage, I was still not as good at it, but I was at least more aware of it. Now, the other thing that I've learned is that, there's each of us has a different need when it comes to how we experience relationships and experience love. The whole love language thing gets thrown around a lot. I'm not a fan. I don't believe some of what I've encountered in that. I don't think anyone has one specific love language, but I do think we favor things. Kara, for the first most of our marriage, she was looking for physical affection. She wanted to be hugged. She wanted to be kissed. She wanted her hand held. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if there's a slight autism when it comes to me. I don't know. But I'm uncomfortable with those things. So to do them was a sacrifice. I would have to, not all the time. I like a good hug as much as anybody, but there's like a 1 or 2 Mississippi level there, and then it needs to be over. Not 3, 4, 5 Mississippis. That's crazy. But Kara wants those Mississippis, and how could I deny them all the time? So, and holding hands was always awkward for me. I'm not going to say I just didn't want any physical contact, but I'm not a very physically affectionate person. It's just part of who I am. But, that's another compromise you make as part of a marriage, part of a relationship. There's also been a lot of things aren't quite what I thought they would be as a married couple. I grew up reading all these authors, guys like Scott Card, who wrote Ender's Game, now a good friend of mine. But I didn't know him until this past year personally. But I grew up reading a lot about how his relationship with his wife. All these authors would talk about like Stephen King. A lot of them would talk about how their wife was reading their chapters as they came off the printer. My wife has never read a book of mine until it was already in print, and then she quit on that because I was writing them too fast and she wanted to read other things. And so I always had this expectation, I'm sorry for the noise, that, my wife would be a partner with me in this career, this passion that I have. And she is. She's just not going to be my first reader. And so that was a shift for me. I will admit that at first I was kind of disappointed in that. And then over time, I realized, you know what? It's actually probably a good thing because she and we enjoy different types of fiction. There are also times, Kara knows that I have a quirky sense of humor and knows that I have a tendency to say things that are kind of outrageous to just see what the impact will be. And sometimes I'll write things that are like that as well. And I would not have wanted someone scolding me over something I wrote in a novel before that novel reached its readers. Kara is very intelligent. She's very savvy. She is. She has a high emotional quotient. But we differ in our tastes, and she is not she's not my target reading audience. So if she were somehow influencing the work, it would damage the work in a way. It would become something else for a different readership, is what it would be. Not a bad thing. She wouldn't ruin it. She would just make it different. And I couldn't afford, in my early career especially, to make it different. I have a tickle in my throat, so you'll have to bear with me as I sip something. And as I cough. I apologize for that. So there's that. The expectations had to change. There were also other expectations. Now, I didn't come into the marriage with the expectation that my wife was going to be a housekeeper or a cook or any of those things. I grew up in a household where everybody kind of chipped in. Although I will confess, my grandmother took care of that house and everything in it. She took care of laundry. She took care of dishes. She took care of cooking. She made my bed all the way through primary school. I think back on that now, I'm like, man, I should have done a lot more. But that's the home I was raised in, and that was the life I was used to. And I did not come into our marriage expecting that, because by the time I was married, I got married at 33. She was 30. And so, yeah, you do the math. I'm 53 years old. And I had been on my own from the time I turned 18 until 33 years old. And so there was no expectation that someone was going to come in and cook meals for me or clean my clothes or clean my house. That was all on me. And so I wasn't looking for that. And I kept a clean house, by the way. Much cleaner than I do now, frankly. It's really kind of bizarre, but we're working on that. So managing expectations was a big thing. But it wasn't like I came in with severe expectations about her role versus my role. So that's something else I've learned, is that marriages go much more smoothly when you are both equal partners in it. Another common sense thing. But if that gets out of balance in any way, that's when you start to see disaster happen. Something that I learned in 20 years of marriage that is not directly related to my marriage, but is still important enough to shape it, was that Kara and I are fairly unique when it comes to married couples. We have had people, one friend of mine in particular, but we've had a lot of people comment on us as a married couple. They just see us as being, so in love, or well, no, that's not the right way to frame that. They don't say things like that. They don't say you're so in love. They just say that we're a really good married couple. That's what they say. I'm not lovey-dovey. She's not lovey-dovey. She would probably enjoy being lovey-dovey more than I would. But what we have had throughout our marriage is conversation, and Kara loves this. She loves getting into a deep, rich conversation about things. Now, we butt heads. We often will feel like the other one is cutting us off and not listening. We'll have arguments and spats about those conversations sometimes, and there's some adaptation and patience that has to happen there. Like, I have to learn to sometimes let things pass. Things I wanted to say that I didn't get a chance to say. Don't let that frustrate me. So, I'm still learning at 53 years old how to interact with humans. But, it's become such second nature for us to have these deep conversations that we forget that other people don't do it. And so we will have weird interactions with people out in public. At least Kara will. I don't seem to notice if I'm mystifying people. I don't seem to have. I have no filter. We've established this, but I also don't seem to care whether or not the people I'm talking to understand everything I'm talking about. And that's because I am always talking to me. I'm always exploring things verbally so that I can express them so that I can understand them better. Same thing I do when I'm writing. So maybe that's a function of being a writer. I don't know. Then there's stuff like the podcast like this. I can sit and talk, for 30 minutes to an hour, no problem. I have no issue with that. So, maybe that's just a function of who I am. But Kara, on the other hand, will start talking to someone, one of her girlfriends, and realize pretty quickly that they have no interest whatsoever in what she's saying. And that they don't even understand what she's saying, and behave as if she's strange for saying it. So I feel for her on that challenge, because she's not like me. She wants people to understand her, and she wants people to appreciate what she's saying, and go along with what she's saying. Not necessarily agree with her, but see her point and then offer their point so that she can learn from them as well. And she wants that interaction. She gets that from me most of the time. Sometimes I'm not in a headspace for it. But she has a hard time getting that from other people, and I understand where that comes from, and I feel for her. I am blessed in that I have a whole community of like authors and people in the publishing world who do think like that and like to have those conversations. And she has connected very well with authors in my community. She's made some pretty good friends. She doesn't keep up with them. That's what's sad. She needs people like physically in her life. I don't. I can be friends with you even if it's like I've had imaginary friends my whole life. All my work revolves around talking to imaginary people all day. So interacting with people through the internet is not a change for me. But for her, she really wants them sitting across from her. She wants to have a cup of coffee, have a sandwich, eat some pie, and discuss this show she's watching or this podcast she's heard or this book she's read. She really wants that, and I really want her to have that. It's really difficult for her to find that these days. But whenever she's interacted with certain authors in my community or certain people in the publishing sphere, she's had great connections with them. And so it almost makes me, I wish that I lived closer to some of those authors, so that she could be friends with them. I don't know. Doesn't always work out. Anyway, so yeah, 20 years in, and I think it's interesting that people do comment on the strength of our marriage based on the kind of conversations they hear me and her have. I think this guy in particular, the guy I'm specifically thinking of, had gone through a divorce, and so I'm sure he was sensitive to all this, but he really appreciated that Kara and I could and would talk about literally anything, to the point of becoming impassioned about it and fighting about it. And then we'd fight, and we'd both be butthurt and say some things we didn't mean, awful, evil, despicable things sometimes. Mostly that's me. Being a complete ass, go away, and then we send each other a little text. I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking, or that wasn't a very kind thing. I feel ashamed. Texting is our icebreaker, and then we're good. We come back together, we apologized, we move on, and life goes on, and we have the next conversation. So I was astounded to discover that that's not a normal thing, that's not something that married couples do that often. So go figure. What I realized, though, in this 20 years, because of that, I always thought that there were times where I thought our marriage was in trouble because we were fighting. Unfortunately, I grew up in a household where there was divorce more than once. My mom was married, 3 or 4 times, and I don't talk about this a lot, but when I was like 1 year old, 1 or 2, I think I was 2. I was 2 years old. She was married to my brother's father, and he beat the living crap out of her and broke her jaw. She had to have her jaw wired, and he beat the crap out of me, a 2-year-old, for crying or something. And we were rescued from that. And now I don't have an actual memory of any of that, but I'm sure there's some deep-seated trauma that I've never dealt with or whatever. But there is later when she married my stepfather that adopted my brother and I, then they split up. There was a whole moment where he said something to me about, I know we never got along, and it just wrecked me, because I'm like, what do you mean? I had no idea we never got along. So it was just this damaging revelation to me. And then she married another guy who took her away from me, and I'm left being raised by my grandparents, and while they're off in Louisiana, and there was this whole progression of things where I lost people for most of my childhood. I kept losing the people I was close to. So I'm sure that has impacted me. Maybe that's why I keep my distance. I form, relationships with people, but it's all very surface. Like, it's deep. I care about them. I love them. I'll do anything for them. But there is a part of me always withheld from those. And I haven't been able to do that with Kara because, we're around each other 24/7. But, sometimes our, I can't remember which author talks about this, but our pain bodies will interact with each other. But what I've discovered is that Kara and I have this communication. We have all these things that yes, we'll fight. Yes, sometimes it feels like it's over. That's the way it always felt to me early on. Oh, we fought. It's over. I was always waiting for her to walk out the door, and she never did. And I think she always was waiting for me to walk out the door, and I never did. So we ain't going anywhere. But that's not true of some of our friends. And some of the relationships that I genuinely thought were forever relationships, friends of mine that have been together, since high school, would suddenly split up, and I did not see it coming. And some of them are like, "How did you not see it coming?" And I think in part it was because all I could see was that, they had these relationships. Yeah, you fight. Yeah, sometimes you're miserable, but that's what marriage is, right? I don't know why I didn't see it. And I don't know why, when it comes to my own marriage, I sometimes think it's over. I don't do that so much these days. But for the first 10 years or so, I definitely did. So anyway, 20 years in, it's funny to me because I still feel like we're getting to know each other 20 years later. Maybe I'm withholding parts of myself. She definitely knows me better than anybody on the planet knows me. There's literally no one on earth that has spent more time with me than she has. And so for 20 years on, we have become something I can't quite categorize or describe. And I think it goes beyond marriage. It's more than just a married couple, because I've seen a lot of married couples fall to pieces. So I don't think it's about the marriage. It's not about physical romance. It's not about even emotional romance. Kara and I somehow stumbled onto being connected in multiple ways, in deeper ways than I ever knew was possible. How's that for romantic? None of this is sounding very romantic, but I'm not, unfortunately, not these days a very romantic guy. At least not the way I always think of romance. But I can say I love Kara, and she drives me nuts. It is an even though love. I love you even though. That was part of our wedding vows. Even though you tick me off, even though you confuse me, even though you irritate me, even though we don't always see eye to eye, even though sometimes our conversations end with us storming off, saying evil, wicked, disgusting things to each other. Even though all that, here we are. It's not me and you, it's us. So that's going to wrap up this episode of The Kevin Show. Today it is The Kevin and Kara Show. Kara, if you are watching, happy anniversary. I do love you. I'm sorry for 20 years of being a pain in your butt. And anyway, so thank you for tuning in. Please like and share and subscribe. Leave a comment below if you don't mind. It helps tell YouTube that we're interacting with each other. You're engaged with my content. Please do share the show with the channel, all the stuff with other people. If you are subscribed to me, I do this daily thing called The Walking Kev. It's like a 3-minute short that I post each day. And you never know what the heck I'm going to be talking about. But today it was talking about how I am handwriting my current book. So you might find that interesting. If you are interested in my process as a writer at all, I tend to talk about stuff like that. You can also, I just recorded the Wordslinger podcast, which is my show that's aimed at the indie author community, but it all goes out through the same systems. So you might see that in your inbox as well, but take a listen to that if you are interested in that topic of me handwriting a book, because I talked about that process and sort of how I've been experimenting for years with my writing process. So maybe that will be useful to you. But anyway, I would appreciate it if you'd like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment on this video. make sure you go to kevintumlinson.substack.com and subscribe there and read the Substack companion piece to this video. There will be a link in the notes below. So God bless you. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're having a wonderful life and a wonderful marriage and a wonderful 2026 so far. And I'll see you next time.